Watch your environment. Your environment affects you, whether you like it or not. It might not be immediate, but the symptoms and the effects will be there slowly. Seeds that are planted within the environment. If you're in an environment that's very toxic in everything, whatever it may be. Let's say that let's say for example you're living in a place where there are industries and there's toxic products, the byproducts, whatever it is, off in the air. That environment will affect your health. If you change and go to a newer environment where there's no filth like that, your health will improve. If you're in a relationship that is very abusive and you stay in that environment of abusiveness, you may start to have traits of abusive, apart from being more like an enabler without even noticing or becoming an enabler. You might start thinking that that type of abuse is normal, whether maybe you've sought assistance and seeing other people are just hiding their scars and say, hey, we just forget the blows, forget the words, just imagine it's not there. Over time you start thinking, maybe this is normal, and you get so comfortable. And then now it gets dangerous now is when you start becoming the enabler of the abuser, and when the abuser starts when let's say there's a victim, let's say there's a relative who has come into that room, a sister, a brother, whoever it may be, and this abuser decides, I want to do something to that person. And they tell you, you just relax, I'm going to get to ABCD. You're like, oh, okay, fine. So because you're getting a gift, whatever it is, you start allowing someone else to fall victim of that abuse. And when they have been dominated and reached a point they have been put, that person says, hey, you can find me another person, bring me a friend. And so now you have a string of people being abused. Hence, let's look at cults. How does cults work? It starts with one victim thinks maybe this is okay, maybe I feel special by done ABCD, next victim. The funny thing about mankind is when we dress and put all this, and we dress up and we meet in different places, we are not always who we really are in our true sense until we are unveiled in our own vulnerable moments, and then you see people for who they really are. And that's why sometimes it's very important not to judge people, sometimes even by choices of partners. At some time, yes, there could be partners that you're thinking this is just going to end up in the worst case, but wisdom and discernment is important with how we use our words, because what people love is very different. What people desire is very different. And you see, relationship somehow, in a way, exposes people to their vulnerabilities. And now, if the other recipient is immature or manipulative, you're in a lot of danger, because that individual will use it against you to tame you down, because the image that people see out there, the well-behaved, well-character, well put out, but in your house you are all over the place, it's chaos all over and you're kind of comfortable in the dress is on this side, the shoes on the other side, and okay. But now when you find someone is coming to where you're to reveal your other sides, or maybe even the bedroom, you have there's styles you want to try, and then someone decides, oh, I'm going to use this against you, it becomes dangerous. And if there's one place that people become animals, it's just relationship. Once different people handle breakups differently. Some person will handle breakup and the first thing they'll think is avenge. Another person will be like, oh, wow, why am I not surprised? They keep moving on. And everyone handles maturity. And I think the other most important is our coping mechanisms. So environment affects you. In a toxic work environment, you get used to this idea that all I need is money, all I need is to close my eyes, what I don't know does not affect me, until someone becomes so affected and destroyed, and then you start realizing, maybe if I did 1 2 3, I could have assisted this individual, but now you're thinking, not my problem, there'll just be another statistic. And you continue until it becomes now someone very close to you, whether in that place or in another environment, and then you realize, I could have stopped this thing from day one, but now here we are. And you may say, I get the money, but let's do the math. How much money do you get equals to how much it affects your health? There's so much pressure in life. It's always good to look at all the options on the table, evaluate everything, and then saying, fine, this is the option that I take. Is like taking a rotten apple and a fresh apple and put them together. So you have two examples. Example A, you put them together. Example B, you put them separate. Example A, when you put them together, the rotten and the fresh one, the fresh one will start having small spots from the rotten one. Before you know it, it is all coated up, it's rotten. However, if you take part B, the example B, where you have the rotten apple here and the other rotten and the fresh one on the other side, there's no effect because there's no transfer. If you look at scripture, look at Lot. When Lot, before he ended up losing everything in Sodom and Gomorrah, we are told first he pitched his tent looking towards Sodom and Gomorrah. So he started from there, okay? And then when we come and learn about the raid that happened, the attack from the other kings, and they were taken away by the king, we realize he was now part of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then after he's rescued, we think he'd realize, I should be out of this environment. When the angels come now to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, he's found inside. Meaning at that time, he was on the outside. So if you do some historical thing about why would he be, you come to realize those were spots, areas where people who would, like councils, I don't know, to chiefs, I don't know how to put it, people who will address the people would be seated. So that's why we find him at the gate. When you do now the historical, see why was he at the gate. So you see how it all started. And now what happens? Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. And even by the time it's being destroyed, it's warned, leave. And despite him understanding that this could be angels and this is real, he still was buying time. You see how it started? It started with him pitching the tent. And then he was part of it, suffered round one, and then brought back, and then came back again, and suffered point two. And eventually, what's the after effect? Incest. And incest, well, the daughters say there was no other man. But let's look at where to correct that part. They claim there's no other man, yet they had come from Zoar. The cave to which they had gone would have been the original place they would have gone. But they went to that city, that village called Zoar. But they said there were no other men, yet they went to a village where there were people. So there were people in Zoar. But what kind of people were these daughters desiring? Maybe they found that people who were very calm, composed. They were not into the old Sodom and Gomorrah type of life. And they had a particular desire because they grew up in that environment. You see, we underestimate the power of environments. In this era of social media, of the digital era, which we can't run away from, running away from it, thinking it's going away, that's a lie. It's going nowhere. It's here to stay. It is us adopting healthy mechanisms on how to handle it, where you say, I'm online for X amount of time, I'm doing ABCD. So because at the end of the day, information is flowing online. Real information in real time. And you need that information because you could be driving or going to a place where there is war or there's chaos. And if you only checked on a particular platform, you could have gotten information in real time. Now you find yourself a victim. So yeah, so social internet is going nowhere. AI is going nowhere. Social media is going nowhere. It's only just going to advance, and only God knows the extreme horror that is coming. But it's here to stay. It is us to learn how to adapt, how to manage ourselves. Now, back to it. As we are watching all this different content from every different content creator, whatever content it is you are watching, plus the algorithms adding the streams of more and the more traffic on your end, be very careful. Because you could be very you could be very okay and calm and composed until you find yourself getting some type of information that changes your perspective, and you start thinking that everyone is like that. A quiet man or a quiet lady is cheating or doing something. No, they just want their peace of mind. And then some other types of concepts are brought about and taken out of context so that people can look at it and that's the ideal thing. You should be very careful with what you feel, because the internet is also an environment. It is healthy depending on how you use it. So it's important to be very careful always. And we can't ignore the two sides of a coin. If you stay too much on the platform, there's another time that you've wasted. There are physical things you could have done. If you stay, if you pick, if you're not careful with the type of content you are watching, you pick ideas, perspectives, ideologies, and sadly, you may be picking everything that's wrong. We live in a time whereby we have so many softwares and apps for editing. That means a 20-minute or a 1 hour clip or 3 hour clip can be misinterpreted if you get someone who's good at editing, who can be able to put the words together and bring the meaning that this editor intends to relay as content. You can easily give false information of an individual or a false thing until someone decides, let me watch the full clip to understand if these things relate. And the time in which we are in, where people are like, I have more issues to do, why should I watch the full clip? I believe what this person has. I believe this what 3 minute, 4 minute, 10 minute clip has said. But that 5-10 minute clip could be totally wrong. Yes, that whole platform that you're seeing them is real, but the editing has been so perfected that you can, it's just like the way media houses do it. Media houses don't give you the full thing, they edit out because they all have an agenda. You have 30 minutes of watching news. You have the general news, you have sports, you have business. How do you think they'll maintain all those in 30 minutes or 45 or 40 minutes? How would they maintain to put it? They have to do a lot of editing. And in that editing, it's easy for them, depending on the agenda of the day, to bring out the information they want for the agenda of the day. And remember, they have investors. So apart from the local investors, they have international investors. And since they have international investors have rating scores. And they have rules and regulation of how the investment should work. So let's say the global agenda is ABCD. Message will be passed to all the platforms bought by these investors. This is what should be your theme. Find a way, in whatever context you give this information, to relate to the theme up there. And then now we have these ratings that we have right now. Hence now the agenda, whether they choose to be woke, whether they choose to be this, whether they choose to be that, whether is to present different ideologies or philosophies, is easy. So now, if you are not someone who likes to dig, you will fall prey to a lot of propaganda. You will fall prey to a lot of lies. You will fall prey to wrong perceptions and ideologies. And sadly, within that short time you picked and you acted upon it, you end up making all the wrong decisions. And sadly, many people get affected if only you asked the right questions and the right people at the appropriate time. So it's very important to make sure that we are careful with all the environments around us, because every environment affects us. Whether it is a health hazard kind of environment, it will affect you. Whatever it is, it must affect you, whether positively or negatively. Someone who lives in a place where the environment is very peaceful and someone who lives in an environment where it's very chaotic. The one is a very peaceful environment. If they transfer to a chaotic place, they will run very fast to the peaceful place. They just want their peace of mind. They don't like many things. If someone is from a chaotic place and they come to a peaceful place, they realize they don't fit in there. They'll go back to their chaos. It is sad. It's quite sad when you think about it, because most people now have the mentality of, I want to live to impress another individual. I want to live to impress another community or race or whatever it be. So you start adopting to ideas, you start adopting to opinions, you start adopting to perspectives that are really not what you believe in, but is what makes sense to you, to the environment which you are in. And that is very wrong, because then you're not yourself. You are a picture, a frame of another person, but you just put in the mask as saying, this is me, but that's not you. Because when you get properly challenged and asked, fine, thank you, you have your ideology, but did you ever think of it from this angle, this angle, this angle? No. Let's say, for example, you go to hospital and the doctor tells you you have ABCD ailment, and that ailment you're being told is a very bad ailment. What do most people advise to do? Seek second opinion. Why? It doesn't mean that the first opinion could be wrong, but it's just important to have a second opinion, because it could be maybe when the first test was done by hospital A, these were the traces, but in hospital B, nothing like that has happened. That's why when you're dealing with medical issues, you always seek second opinion. So why can't we handle the same logic when handling many other issues? If you're watching something on a social media platform or within the internet, do seek second opinion. That means go and research and find out, is what I'm seeing what I'm seeing, or is what I'm seeing what I believe? Because right now, governments have realized, we can actually control these people. All we need is buying some content creators, buying the media platforms, work side by side with social media platforms, and tell them, in our country, ABCD we don't want. Hence, we find heavy censorship on particular words. Have you never received a strike or a warning on your account and thinking, I didn't even say anything bad? And you wonder, but my account even... It happens because there are rules and regulation for every platform in every country to go through. And nobody wants their nakedness to be seen by the world. I mean, apart from those ones in the corn industry. Generally, people don't want, their vulnerabilities out there. However, it happens. And governments have to find ways and methods to tame that down and make sure nobody gets to know that story. So platforms, wherever and whichever country they are in, they will be censored. And it will become from the context of, if you want to operate in my country and get your X amount of subscribers, there are rules you have to abide with. And they'll have to abide by those rules of that country. Hence, there'll be heavy censorship, and someone will be wondering, why are my fees low, but my content and the other person's content are similar? What happened? Maybe there's something you said you shouldn't have said, and the algorithm picked it. Remember, it will pick our words and what we type. Even what I'm saying right now is picked. But at the end of the day, our environments affect us. So we would look at environment from just what environment is around you. It's in your home. You could be raised in a dysfunctional type of family. And we're talking about the extremes. And almost every family is not that perfect. Sadly, right now, we have too many dysfunctional families and toxic homes, where we have too many narcissists in one area and one empathetic, So there are things that could be in that family where people just want to use you for the sake of using you, and they have zero accountability. You as a person have to decide, enough is enough, and step up and stand out. That would mean you don't have to get into direct retaliation, but you have to ask yourself, how much is too much? Sometimes you just step up and pull yourself from the environment. There were times even how people would handle, is like when you want to exit out a place, you give your notice and you're gone. Sometimes nowadays you don't need to give too much notice. You just give a few warnings of, I'm uncomfortable, then you're gone. Because, okay, right now where we are in life, people are very scared of one another, because you may, unless it's now on a legal contract like a job where you have to give a notice. But like generally, even in relationships, you rarely will say you are leaving because you're scared sometimes, because you might say you are leaving someone, and then with the way statistics are showing us, when you just tell someone you're leaving, someone will be thinking, you can't leave me. No, you are mine, or all those crazy terms people use in the obsessive nature. And then you realize, nope, last time I checked, the last person who said I was leaving, they ended up in a body bag. So me, I will just tell them I'm uncomfortable, ABCD, and watch their move, and then go and disappear. And if later on, if they look for me, I'm like, did you think you're going to take me out like you are? And sometimes you have to go off months and months, even a year. And if they ever find you near wherever it may be like, they'll find you very transformed. Sometimes you just don't need to say when you're leaving, because not everybody understands that word exit. Not in the world that you're living in. So environments matter. Environments matter even with the type of friends you work with. We're living at a time where people are doing extreme, horrific things to get money. People are willing to take human excretion. People are willing to bestiality. People are willing to do anything for that shilling. It's so sad how far society is becoming desensitized and depraved, all because of a shilling, to buy that phone, to buy this, to buy that. And you forget one thing: after you get it, then what? The cycle continues. When does it ever stop? Does it stop when you have all the infections in your body? Does it stop when you have infected other people? Does it stop when people are putting you 6 feet under? Does it stop when someone you infected decides to take your life? When does it stop? It has to stop the moment you realize, if this is my worth and this is what you think I am as your worth, it's a no-no for me. And you remove yourself from such environments. You need to be careful with the types of friends you work with, types of information you share, because there are friends out there, they are not friends. They are the devil's advocate, and they're just buying time, and they'll be the first one to take you out. They will poison you. You know, there were times people used to say, I'm getting married, I'm doing this, and people were like, wow, congratulations. Nowadays, they are you say that stuff. You won't even reach that wedding day. Something will happen. You know, sometimes you say in our community, we say, people, the village doesn't want to hear some things, and people take these words lightly, but stuff is happening out here. People are very wicked to the core. How many brides have been SA'd in their car? What do you call it? The bride's car. They are going to the wedding venue, and it happens. How many have happened? Many, sadly many, where the groom has no idea that the person he's letting down has just been SA'd, and the lady will put up all makeup and everything and look okay, and they say person is the driver, or maybe the driver was at gunpoint and they were taken to another area because maybe one of the people in the weddings knew that route, or they were part of the bride's maid, and they said they just made a text and gave clear direction, and a car pub is in front, you are taken, evil is done to you, and you come and everybody is so happy, but that woman something has happened, or even a man is happening. So right now we're not in a time whereby we tell people what we are doing. We do it. Then people are like, oh, you did it. Yeah. Why didn't you not say? Yeah. We don't say anymore because your safety matters. So be very keen with the type of environment, because our environment affects us negatively or positively, whether we like it or not. And those are the facts at hand. So your environment can define you if you're not careful. It doesn't mean if you've been raised in an environment that, let's say you've grown up in a particular area, that environment or that area of that community has been toxic. And I mean, that's why you've grown up, being a boy, be a child, and now you're becoming a person. As you become an older person, you can change your environment. Yes, as you move to this environment, you may carry some traits from that environment, but the fact that you chose to change the environment will be okay. But if you stay there for so long until an adult in your 40s, I'm sorry, but you are no different from what's going on in that ground. But if you change it, yeah, you will be different. You'll be different. So may God help us all, because at the end of the day, no one's perfect in this journey. We are all learning. You know, we're in the digital area, information is there. Just be careful with the type of content you vibe with, and be very careful with the type of things you allow. It's always important to pray and ask God to put a filter in your life, because so information is everywhere. There's information, there's digital information, there's conversation, that's information. Prayer, when you're speaking prayer, that's information. So it's all over the place. It's very important to always ask God, put for me those filters, so that whatever gets to me is what glorifies you. Because right now in the world that we're living in, be very careful. You don't know the trigger, and you don't know who's gonna pull the trigger. Let's be very careful, discerning, and may God guide us all.